this is a paper that we've presented in the June-July SAPICS thing, and we did it again afterwards. And so it's not a story that's getting old because things have changed because of COVID. So we're going to give you an update in a way as well. Soko Yetu, that means our market. That's the motto behind Twiga Foods. Twiga Foods was founded in 2014 and really reinvented the African approach to retail. It's a digital-based business-to-business platform that builds fair and reliable markets for agricultural producers, food manufacturers, and the retailers, retailers in Kenya on the floor, which are not necessarily formal trade retailers. And the idea is to make it less time-consuming, more efficient by building an end-to-end distribution, making sure they maintain fresh and food product through the right controls. And really, they present a convenient and reliable alternative to the current inefficient process of going to markets and standing in queues and so on. So it makes it very easy for the retailers to get their product. And in June 2020, Twiga Foods was selected amongst hundreds of candidates as one of the World Economic Forum's technology pioneers.
Kwa majina naitwa Patrick Teli. Hapa wanunuzi wa madizi ni wengi. Sisi huuzia Twiga Foods. Na kwa vile sisi watu wa sako lazima tuendelee kuwauzia. Lakini vile vile Twiga lazima auziwe maana bei yao ni nzuri. Malipo ya Twiga Foods ni nzuri sana maana ni immediate. Wanapima madizi yako na mara moja wanakutumia pesa kwa njia ya simu. Hakuna ile tunasema madelay. Wewe mkulima, fanya kazi yako vizuri. Kampuni itakukuta mpaka kwa shamba na itakununulia na utalipwa siku hiyo, dakika hiyo kupitia simu.
And so the typical customer looks like this, a happy face on the side of the road, selling the Twiga product. So who is Twiga Foods? It's a supply of projects and FMCG to the informal traders in Kenya. As I said, launched in 2014. So from our perspective as Relog, was there something special, unique about Twiga Foods? How was Relog going to be of assistance to Twiga Foods? How complex was Twiga Foods supply chain and distribution? How much technology and maturity did they need in what we could add? What value could we add? So a visit to Twiga Foods was a revelation, and today I'm going to try to tell you the story. So as they say in Swahili, karibu. Welcome. So how does Twiga Foods operate? You have all these farmers out there, and it created a mechanism that the farmers could actually get their stuff to the traders. Twiga have agents that go out and they take product from the farmer, they buy it, they take it to an aggregation center. Eventually it's consolidated, it's brought to a pack house, it's then moved to localized depots, and then goes out from the depots into the informal vendors who then service the customers. And what you'll understand in Kenya, the informal vendors make up the majority of the market of sales. The timing was critical that we were able to pick the food and get it out to the customer almost within 1 day or 2 days. The other process is that we are able to manage the product flow. We put it into crates. The crates have RFID codes or QR codes, and we can identify the product throughout the supply chain using Twiga's technology backbone. And then there's a whole return logistics, bringing the crates back to the depot, washing them, and returning them to the aggregation centers. And then finally, the technology. The most important thing with Twiga was being able to have the trust of the farmers and the trust of their customers. They run a cash business without ever touching cash. Everything sits on M-Pesa, and the product that are moved through the supply chain. We track the weight, we track the correct bin that it's in, we track the assets, and as it goes through the supply chain, we pay the farmer, and the vendors pay us as we deliver to them, and they place their orders for the next delivery. So moving into their distribution center, into their current operations, they ripen bananas in containers, and this was a bit of a shock to us. And we were expecting some excitement there and good facilities, and then we realized that we could really help them with building this, because their projections on bananas were moving up to about from 50 tons a day to 300 tons a day. This is some of the FMCG product that's taken in. A lot is bagged, a lot is not palletized. They had to learn how to palletize items correctly. A lot of the product comes in their old bins. This is a picture of the old bins. And they then invested in some banana rooms. And unfortunately, these weren't correct. It required hand loading, no palletization. And you can see the passage down to the room is very narrow. You couldn't even get a forklift or a pallet jack through to that. Everything was done with manual sorting and grading. And if we move to the depot operation, the depot operation was very manual. But Twiga was growing and picking up market share, and it was working. So from a relog perspective, we had to look at the strategy for Twiga. What was their business strategy going forward? We had to look at how to redefine their operations. We had to look at how to re-engineer the infrastructure, and we then had to plan how to implement. We took a look at their growth, and as you can see, this is going through to 2024, and their growth went from under 100 tons a day in total to well over 500 tons a day. And that's a multiplication of 5 times, and that was something that we've never experienced in work that we've done in conventional retail. So we had to plan how were we going to manage this growth and how were we going to plan the facility. The growth was so fast that we didn't have time to build them their own facility. So we found a facility ready-made in Tatu City, and we agreed to rent it. And this is a picture of the facility. And if you go onto it, and this is our operational layout, and it's a total change from what they used to. On the top right, you have the banana ripening room, which has the potential to be extended up to 300 tons a day. In the middle, you have your sorting operations and grading operations, and on the left, your storage and picking for your product once it's sorted. You've got receiving and dispatch on the front, including your waste management, crate washing, battery charges. So it was a formalized distribution operation with a whole value add built into it. And this gives you a better picture in a 3D. So we modeled this, we mapped it out, we planned to put in technology to bring the banana in feed, that we track the crates, we quality check, and we're able to build pallets in a very efficient manner with boom conveyors. Nothing like this had ever been done in Kenya. We put in 4-level high banana rooms to maximize the capacity of the facility for the number of bananas that we needed. And this is an artist impression of the banana rooms. And we even went as far as to take it the next step and develop a modular depot facility that was easy to construct and build more depots as we needed them, as they reached capacity. And this was a simple depot that worked very effectively. And there's another picture of the depot, and here's the last picture of the depot. So there were a lot of world firsts. Sorry about the dogs. There were a lot of world firsts. There was, first of all, these 80 pallet banana rooms, four levels high, 10 pallets deep. These are the largest banana room doors ever supplied to anyone in the world. We put in a shuttle system in the banana rooms for this type of system, using smart crates with the bananas, with NFC, RFID, and QR codes. And the ripening capacity, as I say, up to 300 tons of bananas per day in one facility. In terms of Kenya, there were some firsts, reach trucks at 12 meters high, putting in the shuttle system, battery change system, intelligent management, inbound crates and auto check with extender belt and ergonomic palletization. product sorting, grading, auto weight allocation, rolltainers, dolly transport systems, automatic crate wash, and the first WMS with integrated RFID. So it was quite a challenge putting all of this technology into Kenya, into what was perceived as a very much a third world market, informal sector trade. But the whole idea behind Twiga's business is to use technology to actually accelerate their business and to facilitate an easy flow of product and goods and control as it moves through the supply chain. And this gave us a lot of confidence. Their systems and their backbone that they had developed that tracks their sales and tracks their product proved that they were capable of adapting and using this technology. And this is a picture of all the stuff I've just spoken about. Obviously, the project progress and COVID-19 delayed us. The planned install was March to May 2020, with a go live in June 2020. And hopefully by the June SAPIX conference, we're actually hoping to present live pictures. Obviously, this was delayed by the pandemic, and we needed to manage the delay. So there was a whole new learning for us. We had to reprogram the whole project. We had to work out storage of about 70 containers that were being held in the port. We had to negotiate with shipping lines and the port to actually manage the demurrage. And we had to replan the whole installation to be able to get people to Kenya once it was safe to do. Well, I've got good news for you. We were able to start the project 3 weeks ago. Our teams are in Kenya, in Nairobi, and the installation has started. Okay, we need to check. It has also, in this period, there was a change in Twiga's food business. There's been additional FMCG taken up in what they're servicing. There's new growth projections, and the flow-through and cross-dock operations have changed. So they do much more flow-through and cross-dock than what they've done before. So that's a picture of the facility going live. And now I'd like to hand over to Peter. I've taken my 15 minutes, and hopefully there'll be enough time for questions. And if you don't get me for questions afterwards, I'll be in the relog booth. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Gary.
Thank you, Peter.
Let me share my screen. Sorry. Let me know if you can see my screen. Is my screen?
We can see you, Peter. You're good to go.
Okay, great. So this is who we are. As Gary mentioned, Twiga, and I hope my screen is visible. So I'll just start presenting. So for us, the way we see ourselves is that our purpose is to provide affordable access to high quality food and grocery across African cities. And for us to achieve this, of course, we have to then deal with the informality that comes with this. So far, we have about 1,000 employees. We deal with about 60,000 retailers, and we have about 1,000 supply partners. So again, a lot of complexity that we need to deal with to deliver this solution. Now, just for context, how big is the opportunity that we're trying to access? And this kind of just gives you an idea of what it is that we're looking at today. We're solving a $300 billion problem across sub-Saharan Africa, and this is, of course, been worsened by COVID-19. And just to give context, the $300 billion number is based on World Bank data that's 5 years old. So that number could actually be much, much greater than it is today. What we know is that this number will grow to about $1 trillion by 2030 across sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the big challenge here is around fragmentation of retail. For some of you who've actually come and visited some of the markets in sub-Saharan Africa Or if you look at, for example, markets in South Africa where you have a lot of informal settlements, there is a lot of fragmentation. Now, for example, in the case of South Africa, you're talking about 40% of a market being informal. In Nigeria, that number is 98%, which means that formal retail is near non-existent in terms of the impact that it has on the economy, and in Kenya, about 70%. So what this means is that then there is a lot of inefficiency that arises from this level of fragmentation. Just to give you an example, Nairobi has 6.5 million people. That's 180,000 retailers serving this 6.5 million people. And with that type of fragmentation, what then leads is to a lot of inefficiency. And you can see, for example, the market, the Kenyan retail market for food and grocery, about $22.8 billion. And you can see, of course, our vendor base has been growing, at least during this period. So give and take, for you to resolve such a challenge, then the use of technology is going to be very, very critical. But then let's have a look at what the impact of COVID has been. I know that it's been a little bit more significant in the case of South Africa due to the full lockdown. But for Kenya as a country, the full lockdown was not possible, even with the gravity of COVID, mainly because bulk of the population are very, very vulnerable from an economic standpoint. And having an extended period of lockdown would then crystallize a bigger challenge from significant loss of income, which means that then you have a situation that spirals out of control. So pre-COVID growth, Kenya was looking at growing at about 6%. For many of you who might be closer to what's happening in East Africa, we're having a locust invasion like no other. And some of this resulted from places like Ethiopia, Sudan, Somalia, and that has come to impact Kenya. So we're going to lose about 0.8% of our growth just due to the impact of the large swarms of locusts that we're seeing. Of course, that readjusts our projections. But if you look at it, I'm not going to go through all this. I want to highlight one point, that the biggest impact on COVID has been the disruption to household and business spend, which means that people have less money to spend. So if folks are actually chucking out a significant part of their disposable income on food, how do we ensure that we start building efficiency around that? And of course, you can see that then that kind of puts our full year projections to about 1.9% of GDP. Because for countries like Kenya, you really need to continue growing at 6, 7, 8% to ensure that you can lift people out of poverty. So again, and you can see, for example, in the month of March, food consumption, disposable food as a percentage of disposable income hit about 65%. These are very, very high numbers. And just for context, consumers in the US were spending about 52% of their disposable income in the 1870s. If you look at South Africa, that number is about 16%. So spending this amount of money on food is really significant, and we need to leverage technology to reduce this number aggressively. So the key thing for us is that, we've developed a unique set of solutions to meet demand during the pandemic. So we've had to rethink our business and figure out ways in which we continue remaining relevant to the market. So we've looked at things like retail working capital financing. We've extended our portfolio. We've expanded into new markets, and we've really focused on optimizing our supply chain. Just to give you context, when I look at our supply chain cost per unit of product shipped out, which is basically a kilogram of product, we've basically reduced that number by 40% between April and November. So again, a lot of focus around efficiency. And you can see basically what's happened to various industries during this period of March to June 2020. Leather and footwear are down, timber and furniture are down, textile are down, food and beverage is up 3%. You can see paper and paperboard construction has continued, chemicals, metals and allied, because there was a lot of projects. And the key thing is that for those of you who've come into the country, there's many significant infrastructure projects that are still ongoing. So those continued because they're basically public sector driven. But you can see that for us as Twiga, we were growing way above any of these sectors, at least during this period, which I think for us was very encouraging. So basically what we're doing is that we solve the issue around aggregation, or we achieve aggregation through disintermediation, or cutting the layers that we have in the supply chain. So we're sourcing now fresh produce directly from farmers. When it comes to FMCG or grocery, directly from manufacturers. We have a payment platform integrated. And when you look at our distribution, warehouse and sorting becomes very important, which is essentially the piece that Gary shared. When you look at distribution, that's also critical because we're going to last mile with all our retailers or our customers. And then, of course, there's a customer experience where can everybody then access the products that we are offering through the handheld device. And for us, we're creating this through a scalable platform. Just to give you an example, the vendor data that we have is one of the most up-to-date, if not the most detailed that we have in the country, because we now have the GPS coordinates of the vendor, we have their contacts and other types of information about them. So, and what we feel is that there isn't too many other players in the market with this quality of data that is live. And of course, supply chain management is very important. Gary has highlighted the journey that we will walk through from a very, very informally structured supply chain to getting to world-class supply chain, all within a 9-month period. Routing software becomes very critical because you need to figure out ways in which you optimize delivery to all these parties. And then, of course, we have fintech or mobile money. So again, how do we incorporate things like working capital financing to our vendors through the solutions that we have? So the key thing for us is that we feel that we have what it takes to streamline food supply in Africa, which is a 1 trillion opportunity by 2030. We have the fortune of being well-funded. We have great shareholders and partners. And the key thing for us is we feel that the first thing is to drive lower prices. And by achieving lower prices, especially in a market that is very, very sensitive, this will help us drive retailer recruitment, which means that there are more and more shops that want to get part to join the Twiga ecosystem because of the benefits arising from that. And the more shops and the retailers that we recruit, of course, that generates economies of scale. And the economies of scale allow us to be more efficient in terms of our production and our sourcing. And then this starts informing a virtuous a cycle, which then sees us really then start lowering the price of food in the markets in which we operate. And this is basically an outline of how we have grown as a company. And between February in 2019 and July of 2020, basically we've grown our volumes 5x. That's over a very, very short period, slightly over a year. And the other thing also is that even during COVID, we've had a significant increase in our volumes. You know, you're looking at doing 4 million kilos per month in February of 2020. Now we're up to, I think these numbers are a bit outdated, but now we're sitting at about 9 million kilos. So we've more than doubled the volume that we're handling through our ecosystem. And of course, our farmer base has grown, has declined because we're getting bigger and more efficient farmers. And of course, our grocery suppliers have grown over this period. So again, we continue to experience robust growth even during this period. And I wanted to leave more time for Q&A. So thank you so much. And that's basically what we had in terms of formal presentation. And I hope now we can at least get into some interactive session where we can answer some questions.
Thank you for that, Gary and Peter. We have quite a few people in the room with us, so are there some questions? I don't see any in the chat. If you've got some, please will you post them? There have to be questions about this incredible story and how successful it's turned out to be and the difference it's making for the people in Kenya. Everybody's very, very quiet. No questions? Nothing. Okay. So Peter and Gary will be around. As Gary mentioned, he'll be in the Relog booth. Peter, will you be joining us in your VIP lounge for some time, just so that people can approach you with any questions?
Yes, I'll try and create some time later today. Thank you so much.
Okay, so if you've got questions you want to connect, you're welcome to send them a message by connecting in the lobby. Alternatively, you can grab Gary in the booth, and Peter will be back a little bit later.
If you've got any specific available, send on to Peter.
Thank you, Gary. Just a reminder, as Cecil's put it in here, please complete the polls. 5 being excellent, 1 being less than expected. This is important for us to ensure quality of speakers for the future. So Gary and Peter, thank you so much for sharing the story. I cannot wait to hear the update in June. This for me is really, really exciting because I think I've listened to it and it's truly inspiring, especially for us in Africa when everything seems to be so dire at the moment. I do have a question here quickly for you though. How is the road freight being executed, managed and monitored?
Okay, so road freight, meaning the logistics that we have. So the thing is that we have different types of logistics. There's what we call inbound, and inbound means that it's either coming in from our manufacturers or from our farmers. So what we've done is that we've actually created a technology marketplace where we're able to source logistics. So we allow, we've created an integration, a technology integration where suppliers of logistics infrastructure can integrate with us. Once they integrate with us, then we open up our portal where, for example, they can see where they need to pick up the next load, the size of a load, the size of vehicle that will be required. And then all this then is managed very, very efficiently through our technology platform, because then we talked about the fact that we also have a routing software that helps in managing all this. The second piece is that when we started out our business, we started where we owned all our logistics infrastructure. Just to give you context, today we have about 150 delivery vehicles. So what has happened now is that using the same approach, we've used technology to integrate to asset owners in the market. And what happens is that once they integrate into our platform, then we're able to guide them on where they need to pick up product, where they need to deliver it, and how to do it. And what we do is that our app is like an Uber-based app, where they can then see where they need to go in terms of the drops, and because of the informality of the market. And that has allowed us to basically move to a very, very asset-light business on account of technology. So all our logistics assets now are third-party based, and we only pay for all these assets based on mileage. And that's how basically then we manage all our logistics infrastructure across the supply chain. And that's the inbound and outbound into our DCs and warehouses.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Peter, for that. Another question here. Did this project create more jobs and was skills training required as a result of job creation?
If I can jump in, it will definitely create more jobs, but more qualified jobs. So there's definitely a skills transfer needed, skills training, whereby people were doing things very manually on the floor, so on. They're now doing a qualified job, and with the scale of the growth of Twiga's business, we've had to employ more people to meet these capacities as they grow.
And just also building onto Gary's question, Gary's answer, the reality is that from a warehousing standpoint, we will become more efficient. But what we will do is that because of the capacity that creates, then that opens up lots more jobs in our supply chain. If you're thinking about our sales team, folks that are interfacing with the retailers, so that allows us then to build efficiency while at the same time opening up new opportunities to then scale the number of customers that we serve. Our objective by end of next year is to serve 100,000 customers across our supply chain.
Wow. That's certainly a lot of customers. So I think the message to everybody that's here is that, you know, we always talk about local is lekker. We have the skills, we have the knowledge, we have what we need to be self-sufficient and create opportunities for ourselves to build jobs and really grasp the technology for improvement, not only in business, but I mean, to help grow the economy at the end of the day. So Gary and Peter, thank you so much for your time today. I hope there are lots more questions that come through, and I really, really do look forward to listening to the updates in June. And anybody that's here that wants to hear more, make sure you register for the June conference. We are now going to take a short break for 15 minutes. So if you are still struggling with a platform, please just move around. You won't break anything, but just move around and see what's where and how it's happening. Great place to go is the lounge to network and chat with people and have some discussion. And we will see you back here in 15 minutes, which is, well, sorry, you've got a little bit of extra time, but 12:15 for the next sessions.
If I could just jump in with a quick statement.
Yes.
The exciting thing on this project was the changes that we had to learn about. This hasn't been done before. Mm-hmm. For Twiga's business, what they're developing, it's a moving goalpost, and Peter will attest to it, that every time we speak to him, there's something changed in the business. The grey hair on the side of my head is coming from this. But it's exciting. We're passionate about it, and everything that we've had to develop and learn is something we haven't done before. We take some of our knowledge together, but we apply it in a totally unique and different way. And that's what makes this project so exciting. So I'm very happy to share it with everyone as we go through the journey. It's a little bit late to the party with COVID, but we're picking up, and it's changed our game and made it exciting and given us more grey hairs. But we go forward, and I think we'll definitely be live by the next SAPIX conference. I think Peter will shoot me if we aren't. And it's going to be exciting days coming. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Gary. So I think in this story, not only world-class groundbreaking technology, but they also have state-of-the-art world-class warehousing facilities as well. As far as I know, that's kind of unique as well. So it's very impressive for an African story. So well done, guys, and we hope that you meet your project deadlines so we can learn more about it in June. So that being said, if you want to chat with Gary or Peter, reach out to them, but take a break, do some networking, and we will catch you at 12:15 again. Thank you for attending the session.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.